Today we're going to be making pizzas that look like this, and it's not as hard as you may think. I'm going to be taking you through the whole process. Whether you're using a backyard oven or a home oven, I've got you covered. This is a direct fermentation recipe, so there's no fancy pre-ferment, but it still creates pizzas that are incredibly rich and savory, but also airy. I'm excited to make some pizzas with you, so let's get into it. If you make a good dough, you are 70% of the way there to making a phenomenal pizza. And this recipe will be making 3 beautiful 280 gram dough balls. I'll be throwing the amounts you need up on screen, but they are also in the description of this video below. And at this stage of the dough making process, we're hosting a party for yeast, and we gotta make sure we invite the right amount. And that right amount really depends on how long you have to ferment your dough. The optimal time I've found is 72 hours of total fermentation. I know that sounds like a lot, but it makes truly epic pizzas. If you don't have that amount of time though, here's some other options for 8 hours, 24 hours, and 48 hours. This is all using active dry yeast. And with the yeast sorted out, it's time to add our water. I'm going for a 64% hydration, so I am adding 316 grams of cold filtered tap water, which works out to 1 1/3 cup. It's time to drop our yeasty boys into the bowl of water. Use a whisk, a spoon, a stick, whatever you've got to mix them up. Once that's done, you should wait a few minutes for some signs of life, because if you don't see any activity like these little bubbles on the surface, that might mean that your yeast is RIP. Now, if you're using a home oven, and only if you're using a home oven, add a few extra ingredients for browning. The first thing's going to be a pinch of sugar, as well as a little bit of olive oil. Now let them mingle with your yeast and water. And salt, this is one guess that your yeast does not want it to party yet, so it's gonna have to wait. What's a party without some food? You'll notice that I have 2 types of flour with me here today. The first one is a bread flour. This is 60% of the total flour I add to the dough. This is a really great flour because it has a high protein content and creates a very savory and slightly chewy dough. But that's balanced out with 00 flour, which is the classic flour you use in Neapolitan pizza making. It creates that cloudy, air-like texture to the crust. These 2 flours combined is perfection for me. Now drop your flour into the yeast party, 493 grams or 4 cups. Use a spoon at this point so your hands don't get super sticky. Basically just use your spoon as a dough hook if you don't got a mixer. And just sweep your spoon along the outside of the bowl, taking off anything that's stuck on the side. And when you do a sweep, do a nice little pat on the middle of the dough ball. Keep doing this until your dough looks like ice cream. Now sprinkle your surface with some flour and plop your ice cream dough ball down. And now it's time for salt. So we're going to be measuring out 10 grams of salt, or a half tablespoon, and slowly incorporating it into the dough. So we get our dough ball out, pour a little bit of salt on top, and then knead it with the palm of your hand until it's nicely incorporated. Keep adding the salt over the next few minutes and continue kneading even more for at least 10 minutes, because the more you knead, the more you develop the gluten network, the best type of network, way better than LinkedIn. Now, as you're kneading away, you want to whip out your thermometer, especially if you're in a hotter environment. You want your dough to be staying in the temperature of 21 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit in freedom units. And this is also why we add cold water, because if your yeast gets too hot, it's gonna over ferment. So just keep that thermometer handy as you're kneading away for the next 10 minutes or so. And now we're ready to fold our little dough ball up. What we're going to do is put our dough ball on its back and then do a full fold from back to front, rotate it 90 degrees, and then do that again. Basically getting your dough ball to do crunches. Now at this point, you're ready to turn this dough into a ball. Use your hands and pinch the bottom of the dough ball. Rotate it 90 degrees and do another little pinch. Keep doing this, rotating around until it looks like a nice, pretty little ball. Now take your ball, put it in a bowl, and cover it up. Go watch some Seinfeld, 4 episodes to be exact. It helps the dough rise, much more than watching Friends does. Whatever your TV show of choice is, you really want to make sure that your dough doubles in size. That's when you know you're ready to proceed. Now lift your dough ball out with a spatula or whatever you've got on hand and plop it onto your surface. Use the big dough ball as a pie chart of sorts to divide up how many little dough balls you're going to be making from your big dough ball, or just use a scale. And we're going to be using the same process to shape our little balls as we did with our big balls, because balls are always just balls. So that's a nice fold on each dough ball, as well as a pinch here that I'm doing with my hands as I'm rotating. This really helps close off the bottom of the dough ball and help it rise in the fridge. Also, just got to reiterate, this recipe is for making 3 dough balls. You'll see 5 dough balls in this video. That's because I was making for both the backyard oven and the home oven. Now we're gonna put these bad boys away in the fridge. I have one of these pizza dough ball storage trays. I'll link it in the description below, but honestly, you can use Tupperware containers, you can use bowls with saran wrap. I just love the convenience of this because I make pizza so much. Make sure that your container is lightly oiled so your dough balls don't stick. And now your dough balls are ready for the big chill. Put them in the fridge, in my case for 48 hours, and simply wait. Take them out an hour before you cook them at least. This makes them a lot easier to work with and stretch. Now you're going to want to get your ovens ready, so if you've got a home oven, turn that on an hour before you cook your pizza, especially if you're working with a pizza stone or steel, and the backyard oven, probably about a half hour before you cook, depending on your situation. And get your toppings in order. You do you when it comes to toppings. I will make one recommendation: San Marzano canned tomatoes. These are some of the best you can buy. Just open up the can, crush them with your hands, and you're going to have some of the best tomato sauce you've ever tasted. It really is that simple. Make sure that all your toppings are accessible, organized, and within arm's reach for pizza cooking time. And before you know it, your dough balls will be ready to shape. Resist the urge to take your dough balls out with your hands. Use a spatula or a dough cutter. And in places where your dough balls are budding together, you can use some flour or finely ground semolina to just sprinkle it into the cracks. And then get in there and dislodge your dough ball. Lift it up very gently and maintain its shape as much as possible. Now sprinkle some flour or finely ground semolina on your surface and plop your beautiful dough ball down. And cover both sides in flour so that your dough ball is easier to work with and won't stick. Brush that semolina out of the way. And this is the most important part of your pizza making process: shaping your dough. Use your fingers and press the dough away from you, including the air pockets, but you want to make sure that you maintain the crust. So this area here on all sides needs to be maintained. Pushing the dough away, rotate the pizza, do it on the other side. And really, your job here is to push the dough to the outside of the pizza, making sure that it doesn't get too thin in the center. When your pizza is at 8 inches in diameter, pick it up and let gravity do the rest of the work. Constantly rotate your pizza and make sure that there aren't any areas that are thinning. I usually put it up to a light source to spot areas like this, and avoid squishing the crust if you can. Place your pizza down for its final inspection. A 48-hour dough is just so much easier to work with. I am looking at the base of the pie at this point and squashing any air bubbles that might make the pizza rise in the middle while it's cooking. Work with relative speed as you top your pizza. This is important so it doesn't stick to your surface. I'm adding my tomato sauce and my cheese, transferring it to my paddle, and doing a few bit more stretches so that it's a nice even looking pizza. I use a steel non-stick paddle. I'd highly recommend it. I have it in the description of this video if you want to check it out. Whatever device you're using, make sure that you shake it with your pizza on it before launching. If it is shaking, go ahead. If it's not, do not proceed. Make sure it shakes before you launch. And it's time to throw some pies in my backyard oven. It's up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit and it's ready to rock. It's pizza night, rain or shine. That steam looks so cool. There's nothing quite like cooking pizza in the rain. I am soaked. Ended up cooking this pizza in under 2 minutes. It was one that I was very proud of, but a terrible disaster happened. I ended up tripping on the way in, and RIP, rest in pizza. A fallen soldier. Yeah, looked so good too. God damn it. Well, the show must go on, and I finish off the home oven pizza. It ended up looking pretty fantastic. A golden crust, well cooked, and through the power of editing, here is the backyard oven pizza like nothing happened. And if you're still here, you're probably curious how these two tasted. The home oven pizza was incredibly savory, and it was kind of like a warm hug on a cold day, while the backyard oven was a work of art, way more airy, and you could taste more of the individual flavors. And the crust and dough was more cloud-like, where the home pizza was a bit more crisp, but also super airy. Both were masterclass pizzas. As you watch me take some basil off a plant, we're going to call this video a wrap. Thanks for sticking around. I've also included a pizza dough calculator at the very bottom of the video description. It's super helpful to take the guesswork out of making your pizzas, especially when you're getting started. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and happy pizza making. Have a great day. Bye.